You know, these men who wear pointy hats and carry staffs and wear robes and wear fancy jewelry and gold chalices, they covered up child rape.
You know, I'm not trying to make him out to be some saint. You know, obviously, the crimes that he committed were serious and horrible acts.
A disgraced 93-year-old priest from New Orleans entered a guilty plea on Tuesday to charges related to the 1975 mistreatment of a young one. Lawrence Hecker, who resigned from the ministry in 2002, was set to face trial on Tuesday. His gaze remained fixed on the floor as a sheriff's deputy escorted him toward the courtroom of Orleans Parish Criminal District Court Judge Nandi Campbell, according to the New Orleans Advocate.
And it should not be this difficult to investigate and prosecute an admitted rapist, and it was.
Hecker pleaded guilty to charges of aggravated kidnapping, aggravated crime against nature, first-degree mistreatment, and theft just before jury selection was set to commence, according to multiple news outlets. His sentencing is scheduled for December 18, with the possibility of facing a life sentence. The trial faced months of postponements, partly due to questions surrounding Hecker's fitness, and also because District Judge Ben Willard stepped away from the case, citing a conflict of interest with the prosecution team. The case was subsequently reassigned to Judge Campbell, who mandated standard physical and psychological assessments for Hecker ahead of the trial.
Joan and I confronted Hecker on camera in August 2023. He confessed to molesting several underage boys who he said were 100% willing. But he's always denied having sex with anyone against his will until now.
Hecker, diagnosed with both Alzheimer's disease and dementia, was nevertheless deemed fit to face trial, as stated by his attorney Bobby Hjortsberg, according to a report from WDSU-TV. Hecker was indicted last year by a grand jury after an investigation uncovered his admission to mistreating multiple young ones during his decades-long tenure with the Archdiocese of New Orleans. However, prosecutors noted that the charges against him are based on a specific incident purportedly occurring between 1975 and 1976. The indictment arises from a protracted legal struggle over a cache of confidential church documents, long hidden under a broad confidentiality order. This veil of secrecy was imposed after the Archdiocese filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2020, overwhelmed by a wave of mistreatment allegations. These records reportedly detail years of claims, interviews with accused clergy, and a troubling pattern of church leaders reassigning problematic priests instead of alerting law enforcement to their crime. One of the individuals at the center of the criminal case against Hecker is also part of the group pursuing claims against the Archdiocese in its protracted bankruptcy proceedings. So far, over 600 people have come forward with allegations of mistreatment against the Archdiocese. It is our hope and prayer that today's court proceedings bring healing and peace to the survivor and all survivors, the Archdiocese of New Orleans said in a statement. They added, "We continue to hold all survivors in prayer." The pivotal witness in the trial of a retired Roman Catholic priest who openly admitted to being a serial criminal was prepared to take the stand when the clergyman abruptly entered a guilty plea earlier this week. In a ruling at New Orleans Criminal Courthouse, Lawrence Hecker barred the victim from revealing to the jury that in the mid-1970s, his high school principal had given him an ultimatum: either undergo psychiatric treatment for anger issues and fantasy stories, or face expulsion. This punishment came after the victim reported being mistreated on campus by the priest. On Tuesday, the 93-year-old shocked many by unexpectedly pleading guilty to charges of mistreatment and kidnapping. This revelation gave WWL Louisiana and The Guardian access to the most comprehensive outline yet of the case state prosecutors had built against Hecker. Once shielded by an intricate cover-up orchestrated by his church superiors, Hecker now faces the inescapable reality of a mandatory life sentence. The victim who brought the lawsuit against Hecker was around 16 years old when the priest mistreated him in 1975, according to a 13-page document from the Office of District Attorney Jason Williams. At the time, Hecker had employed the teen to assist with setting up masses at St. Teresa the Little Flower Church in New Orleans, fulfilling a pastoral service requirement for his school, St. John Vianney Prep, located next door. Hecker would also see the teen regularly at weekly pool parties for students at the nearby seminary. One Sunday after Mass, as he often did, the teen was lifting weights in the gym located in St. Teresa's bell tower. Hecker arrived without warning and struck up a conversation about the boy's aspirations of joining one of St. John's sports teams. The priest informed the child that he had heard St. John would soon be launching a wrestling team and offered to teach the teen some moves to help him secure a spot. Under the guise of instruction, Hecker slyly maneuvered behind the boy and trapped him in a chokehold. Authorities would later claim that the teen believed Hecker mistreated him before he lost consciousness while attempting to fight back. When the teen regained awareness, he discovered the back of his shorts were wet. He discarded them on his way home and soon realized it was much later in the day, noticing how the sunlight cast a distinct glow on the bell tower. Later, the teenager told his mother about the mistreatment. After the kid got into a fight with a buddy, Paul Calamari, his principal, called the boy into his office. Calamari immediately became angry and asked who he told about the incident. Prosecutors later wrote in court filings. The boy described telling his mother, prompting Calamari to set up a meeting with the child's parents. Calamari told his parents that he needed to see a psychiatrist due to his anger issues and fantasy stories, or he would be expelled. Prosecutors would later write. They added, the thought of expulsion scared him, so he agreed to go to a therapist for the next several months. The youngster knew his parents couldn't afford the therapy, so he assumed the Catholic Church must have covered the cost. The victim, who is now 65, would learn much later that he was not the only youngster Hecker preyed on, long after St. John Vianney and St. Teresa were both closed.
Have you choked a child until he was unconscious and then raped him?
No.
You deny that you ever raped anybody against their will?
Yes.
In 1999, Hecker confessed in writing to leaders of the Archdiocese of New Orleans that he had mistreated multiple children he encountered through his ministry over the years. His involvement also extended to the Boy Scouts, an organization with its own long history of mistreatment cases. Despite this, the Archdiocese permitted Hecker to resume his duties before retiring with generous benefits a few years later. It wasn't until 2018 that the local church informed its congregation that Hecker, along with Calamari and numerous other clergy members, had faced significant and credible allegations of mistreatment. Even then, it only acknowledged receiving the initial complaint against Hecker in 1996, long after the mistreatment at St. Teresa, and nearly a decade after the Archdiocese had summoned Hecker to address a separate mistreatment allegation. The school ultimately filed for bankruptcy protection in 2020 as a result of hundreds of charges against its clergy. 2 years after Hecker was exposed as a child predator, the former St. John Vianney student came forward to law enforcement about his mistreatment. However, his case moved forward at a sluggish pace. In June 2023, The Guardian succeeded in obtaining a copy of Hecker's 1999 admissions and made them public for the first time, despite a confidentiality seal protecting information related to the church's bankruptcy. In August 2023, The Guardian sent WWL the confession, and Hecker was addressed on television by both publications. Hecker denied ever choking someone or having to sleep with someone against their will, but he assured the outlets that his written confession about engaging in overtly close acts with 100% willing teenage boys was true and genuine. A few weeks later, with assistance from Louisiana State Police investigator Scott Rodrigue, Williams, the New Orleans DA, obtained a grand jury indictment accusing Hecker of mistreatment and kidnapping. The case was postponed for over a year due to doubts about Hecker's competence to stand trial. In September, Judge Ben Willard, who had presided over the case for the past year, unexpectedly recused himself on the scheduled trial date, causing yet another delay. As it became evident that his trial before Judge Nandi Campbell would move forward on Tuesday, at least 10 witnesses, ready to testify against Hecker, were prepared to recount various instances of mistreatment spanning from the 1960s to the 1980s. Hecker was accused by many of fondling them even while swimming, while serving as an altar boy. One person recounted walking with Hecker in the woods outside New Orleans when the priest suddenly put him in a wrestling hold, attempted to mistreat him, and then casually walked away as though nothing had occurred when another child arrived, drawn by the noise. When the boy grew up, Hecker officiated his wedding as the bride's family was close to him. This unexpected twist was referenced by Williams on Tuesday during a conversation with reporters outside the courthouse. Williams said, Lawrence Hecker married him and his fiancée because his bride's family was that close to Lawrence Hecker. Understand the complexities of this thing. None of Hecker's superiors faced charges alongside him. Rodriguez interviewed Calamari, but it remained uncertain whether Williams' office planned to call him as a witness. As Rodriguez stated in a sworn statement under oath in April, it is unclear whether Hecker is part of a larger, ongoing state police investigation that seeks to ascertain whether the Archdiocese operated a trafficking ring that was in charge of the widespread mistreatment dating back decades that was covered up and not reported to law enforcement. Catholic clergymen have seldom been accused, much less found guilty, in relation to the global church's long-running priestly mistreatment issue. Richard Trahant, the attorney for the star witness in the case against Hecker, There is no better result the district attorney could have gotten. There just isn't. Moreover, documents sealed in a case concerning clergy in New Orleans have been made available to WDSU Investigates. The records depict the mistreatment of around a dozen victims of Lawrence Hecker, a former priest in New Orleans. Following his landmark guilty plea this week, one of Hecker's accusers is sharing his story to offer hope to survivors. The man who spoke with WDSU chose to remain anonymous. The victim said, "Passed around like meat and we all suffered. It is impossible to describe." WDSU inquired about his response to Hecker's guilty plea. "It brought a great deal of resolution to what we have been dealing with," he said. The victim recalled that Hecker took him to a neighborhood pool to swim naked, which is his most distinct recollection from about 60 years ago. "He came up from behind me, grabbed me, and started fondling me. I kind of kicked away, and my friend told me, 'You screamed like a pig,'" he said. According to the classified documents, beginning in the 1960s, mistreatment took place in Mississippi and in southeast Louisiana. Hecker mistreated another man when he was a teenager. According to the records, the principal threatened to expel the youngster unless they saw a psychiatrist. According to the unprotected documents, Hecker would be the catalyst for church members to infiltrate altar boys. "He destroyed a lot of people's lives," the victim said. The records show a child was given a box with a feather in it. They gave that to a person they were still involved with to give to a priest who let them know he was available, the victim explained. The documents also state mistreatment occurred during altar boy trips in limousines. "He was a guy that took total advantage of innocent kids," the victim said. The records describe Hecker in a Mississippi hotel room in bed with a boy. "He changed our lives," said the victim. The unsealed records reveal that in 1999, the Archdiocese referred Hecker for an evaluation, during which he was diagnosed as a pedophile. Prosecutors claim that Hecker confessed to mistreatment. Despite this diagnosis, he was permitted to continue working for the Archdiocese for nearly 3 more years. Hecker was allowed to retire in 2002. There are many who wonder if the diocese has minimized clergy misconduct. For almost a year, Archbishop Gregory Aymond has turned down many requests for on-camera interviews. This marks a departure from his approach after becoming Archbishop in 2009. In 2010, during a live Easter Sunday broadcast on WDSU, Aymond addressed the issue of clergy mistreatment. Aymond said, "I say I am sorry, we must move forward. People like to find fault, and that is part of where the media can come in." Back then, Aymond gave the media considerably more access to him, and in 2018, he made the names of priests who were allegedly involved public. "When someone is declared a danger to children, they should not be a minister," Aymond said in 2018. "I have no doubt this will make us a stronger church," Aymond said in 2020 after the Archdiocese filed for bankruptcy. Aymond's interviews have stalled. In 2023, Hecker was ultimately taken into custody on charges of kidnapping and mistreatment. Aymond was asked by WDSU if he believed Hecker deserves to be imprisoned. "I have mass this evening," Aymond said in 2023. Hecker was reported to the police, according to Aymond. Just before his trial started, Hecker entered a guilty plea. Jason Williams, the district attorney, claims that the media was involved in this case. The press pressed something that it seemed like the system institutions wanted to look away from and forget about. That also feels criminal, Williams said. Although the diocese claims to have reported Hecker to law enforcement, state police are looking into the diocese. Even though this year has been contentious, they claim that steps are being taken to move on and heal. The diocese will make public records related to misconduct, marking a significant move toward greater transparency and a commitment to preventing such mistreatment in the future. Documents indicate Aymond will have both one-on-one and group meetings with victims of mistreatment. Senator Royce Duplessis also raised concerns regarding the sealing of documents connected to mistreatment. There is absolutely no place for records being sealed if it relates to information pertaining to children who were victimized or someone confessing to committing a crime, Duplessis said. He added, "There's no place for records of that nature being sealed, and I am certainly glad that they were unsealed." The following statement was released by the Archdiocese. The Archdiocese of New Orleans has cooperated with the Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office in connection with the investigation into Lawrence Hecker since prior to his indictment in 2023. Our cooperation is continuing. A confidential sworn deposition provided by Hecker in 2020 reveals how top Catholic Church leaders in New Orleans allowed him to maintain his prominent role for years. This continued despite recommendations for his removal from the clergy, and much later, their public admission of his status as a child predator. It wasn't a big deal in those days. Hecker said at the deposition about how his archdiocese coddled him despite his acknowledged mistreatment of young ones. The extent of the cover-up is deeply unsettling. When Hecker entered New Orleans' iconic St. Louis Cathedral in January 2000 to receive the honorary title of Monsignor bestowed by the Vatican, he had already confessed to mistreating young ones he encountered through his ministry. By that time, Hecker had been flown out of town and transported by limousine to a psychiatric facility where he was diagnosed as a compulsive pedophile. He was required to take a lengthy leave of absence, set to begin the week following his promotional ceremony, with the archdiocese footing a $6,000 bill. Moreover, he had already confided in both the current Archbishop of New Orleans and his predecessor regarding the allegations leveled against him. Hecker revealed that the late Archbishop Francis Bible Schulte, who had overseen his promotion in 2000, expressed regret for recommending him to his superiors in Rome for elevation just before Hecker confessed to being a serial criminal. Hecker testified, "Archbishop Schulte told me, he said, if I had known of this, I would not have sent in for your promotion. I would not have asked for you to be a Monsignor." However, nothing was done. Schulte and his co-workers evidently moved on from his past, to use one of Hecker's favorite phrases when talking about it. Initially, they proceeded with bestowing the title of Monsignor upon Hecker, with the approval of Pope John Paul II at the time. Subsequently, Schulte's successors as Archbishop, Alfred Hughes, and the current Archbishop, Gregory Amond, overlooked a previously concealed recommendation from an official review board that had urged Hecker's laicization, a move that would have removed him from the priesthood. As a consequence, Hecker managed to escape public scrutiny as a predator for almost 20 years. During this time, he also secured tens of thousands of dollars in support from the second oldest archdiocese in the United States. However, his actions eventually caught up with him, leading to a significant turning point. In September of the previous year, a grand jury indicted him on charges of mistreatment, kidnapping, and other serious offenses. A stunning search warrant executed by Louisiana State Police troopers in late April revealed that the investigation, initially leading to those charges, has expanded into a probe to determine whether certain members of the archdiocese, including Hecker and others, functioned as part of a trafficking network. This network is believed to be responsible for decades of widespread mistreatment, which was allegedly concealed and never reported to authorities. In the 2020 deposition, a lawyer representing several of Hecker's victims questioned the priest, asking whether he considered himself lucky for avoiding criminal charges for as long as he did, even after the truth began to surface. Hecker replied, "I don't think that was even thought about at the time." The 8.5-hour deposition provides the most detailed account to date of the extensive efforts made by an organization serving a region of roughly 500,000 Catholics to protect Hecker. He delivered this testimony in connection with a civil lawsuit seeking damages from both him and the archdiocese. Aaron Hebert, the plaintiff, has openly claimed that Hecker lined him and other kids up against a wall, told them to take off their pants, and caressed their genitalia when he was an altar boy at a church in Gretna, Louisiana in the late 1960s. A wave of mistreatment-related litigation, including Hebert's, were stopped by the archdiocese's May 2020 bankruptcy protection petition. Nevertheless, his legal team, headed by Richard Trahant, was granted special authorization to examine Hecker under oath in private. The archdiocese's lawyers have consistently fought in court to block public access to the deposition. However, a collaboration between The Guardian and WWL Louisiana, CBS's New Orleans affiliate, resulted in the acquisition of video footage of Hecker's testimony, along with hundreds of pages of supporting evidence. The two-day session in December 2020 offers a rare glimpse into how Hecker, now 92, managed to avoid accountability for so long. It comes as he and his accusers await a judge's decision on whether a psychiatric assessment will deem Hecker unfit to stand trial. Hecker's testimony proved insightful despite his frequent use of the Fifth Amendment to avoid answering numerous questions. He invoked his right against self-incrimination an astonishing 117 times, roughly once every 4 minutes, highlighting his apprehension that law enforcement might later use his responses against him. In response to detailed questions in writing, a spokesperson for the archdiocese affirmed the church's support for Amond's handling of complaints against Hecker and directed inquiries regarding his predecessors to current members of their former administrations. The church also asserted that it had appropriately reported Hecker to law enforcement and district attorneys throughout southeastern Louisiana. However, a 2002 letter notifying New Orleans police about him overlooked key details, including his confession from 3 years prior, along with several other omissions. The deposition addressed allegations spanning back to the 1960s, with over a dozen accusers. However, the full extent of additional claims against Hecker, including those related to the archdiocesan bankruptcy case, remains uncertain. When Trahant asked, "You have committed so many felonies against children that you can't remember them all, correct?" Hecker pleaded for the Fifth Amendment. So that's all from today's video. If you enjoyed it, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell icon so you never miss our upcoming videos. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments section. Stay tuned and we will catch you in the next video.